And then you go to your own spot. Good night, Michael Kueny, County Engineer. Morning, Michael.
Good morning. Report. I will email this out to you. Okay. Yeah. So not a whole lot to report on. I can go through the report as it is, as written, real quick. So I went to the Upper Explore Land meeting on Thursday. That was my first one. I'm part of the tech committee as county engineer. Being as I was unaware of all the things that Upper Explore Land was, I went to the enhancement committee meeting and had intended to go to the policy meeting as well, but there was an impromptu meeting with the other county engineers that we had right after the technical meetings when went on that. Per Shirley's recommendation, the naked leadership training, I signed up for that. For some reason, I'm not getting further information on studies, so we're following up with that. Staff is working with me on that, taking follow up with that. Right of way violations are ongoing. We sent out the first ones previous week, so they have until the middle of February to clean up their right of way. So that's still on the docket. Bridge 5 final plan set was sent in on Friday. We needed to get it in to meet that letting in April, so I've been putting time in on those plans this week. So we're looking good on that earlier letting. The W14 plan, there's the 3 projects that are all tied together. No SHPO as of yet. They give 30 days. They should have the review within 30 days. That 30 days ends on this Friday, more or less. I don't know the exact date, but it's Friday. I'll probably have this line item every time. Several citizen requests have come to my attention, and we're working to resolve said requests. That's every week. But
That's right.
Welcome to secondary roads.
yeah. So updating budget and work on 5-year program and progressing. So one of the things that I sat down with the design team, and we went through every single project that was input into the DOT Service Bureau, and some other documents that I have seen, and said, what is this project? What are we really thinking about that? And that I have a better feeling on all of that, as to where we sit on those and the funding and where it's coming from on that. So that would be good. I don't know, not really primer, but it was just a good informational meeting that we had on Friday to get that done. After we had sent in the Bridge 5 final plans, since those were urgent. The other thing about that is that when we were talking, we were very interested in board direction on these plans, especially 3 and 4 years out. That's kind of, what the county really wants from your constituents, and so we're open to that. It's one of the things that everyone had said at the meeting. Then I went out on Tuesday before the first snowstorm of the week, to kind of see how things operated in the shops and things, and came back and started doing hopefully the plans for Bridge 5, and then One thing I didn't mention in last week's report, I did file for the state grant, the County Bridge Construction Fund, for grant money through Iowa DOT. When I talked to the Nikki Sten, she was saying that you might as well apply. There's more funds in that fund this year, so we're not a likely candidate, but because there's more funds, who knows? So that was filed on Friday.
How much was that for? Or
900,000. So
oh,
we have a project lined up for that. So from last year. So I mostly just copied last year's submission since.
send them in?
Maintenance stuff for the snowstorms. Most of the routine maintenance stuff is what you'd expect. I'd say nothing but positive feedback from the staff on that. So, any questions?
Yes, there was some discussion on the, no winter maintenance roads, whether we could pile snow on the signs are, so there's no access to that road, and maybe Andy can answer that question too, whether that would be a. So sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Where the no winter maintenance roads are, people continuously drive right past the signs and get stuck.
Pulls them out.
And it's gonna happen where someone's gonna get in there and it's not a short walk.
Yeah.
And could we pile snow behind the no winter maintenance sign on the road? It's not putting up a gate, it's,
We have a barricade. Let me take a look. I'm not sure.
Or a potential hazard.
Depends how you do it.
Right.
I'm going learning, it's going to be from here down to here, which is,
oh, I get it.
so, let me take a look. I'm not sure.
You want to make sure you did both ends, so that guy
Yeah.
doesn't come from the other side. Yeah, yeah. You gotta address both ends, yeah.
That was just an
Yeah.
idea. I mean, when
Keep
they
people out.
turn the corner and they see a pile of snow and then they see the sign, it's like, I guess I ain't going this way, so.
Yeah, I don't know much about that, so I'll have to get back with you on that. And I think it sounds like Andy is
Yeah, he can weigh in.
as much involved as I am on that.
We had a question / complaint from a citizen about the 5-year road plan and questioning as to whether the roads in question were on that. Shirley, I think it forwarded that to you.
Yes. I mean, I'm just, the 5-year road plan is still being developed. As we're trying, I don't know the exact road that he's talking about, so I don't know how to answer that.
W42, Middle Kelmer.
Well, yeah, there were 3 of them, I think.
B32, I think was the other one.
Middle Kelmer.
We have a
Austin
5-year
Blacktop.
road plan.
We have a 5-year road plan, right here that we can go through, but I don't know. I think there's gonna be quite a few changes, just preliminarily looking at it.
Is that a work session we should schedule
Yeah.
with you?
I was thinking, you wanted us to give you some input and talk about that. Maybe
Yeah.
we should schedule a work session
Mhm.
to make it easier, and then you could get everybody's input at the same time.
Correct. That would be great.
I think it's fairly normal that at budget time that you just schedule an hour
Yeah.
or hour and a half time slot with
Yeah.
Michael to look at those in more detail at some point.
Yep.
After this week, I think our agendas aren't nearly as long as the last few have been, so I'll work with Michael to get
Yeah.
a longer.
To put a session on there, that would be good.
Mhm.
And if the other guys want to sit in on it too.
Your team,
Yes.
then, Matt and Mike, I'm sure, maybe Mike and Matt,
Yeah.
because they're dealing with all that.
And they know the background far better than I do. As to why those projects came to be.
So in discussion, and I don't know, maybe it's out there or not, is the 5-year road plan on your website so the public could access it?
Not that I'm aware of.
It would be probably a good thing if we could make that work, so they
And
can
I
just see it.
Do you want to wait to get the new
Get
developed
the new
one
one.
rather than putting the old one
Old one
on that
on,
might have changes?
But have the potential to do that. And then also with that, I think it would be interesting for the public to be able to see the traffic count on the top 20 roads or whatever. Because everyone says,
What I can say to that is we have maps. I don't know if it's updated for 2023 yet, but there are maps that show average daily traffics for all the counties. I've seen those maps.
we had previously, somebody had presented us with a list of the top 20 and the traffic count on all of them, because everyone else thinks their road is the most traveled, when in fact,
Yeah,
probably is
and,
not.
and some of the numbers, because the numbers are so low, it's really hard to just say with any certainty.
Yeah, I know, the one road, it was like, well, the traffic count was for gravel roads and paved roads, but it was counted as a paved road, even though most of it was gravel, and so that was broken down then by,
Yeah, and I'd have to look into.
that would have been like the river road.
Sure.
It was the one that had.
The thing with the 5-year plan when publishing it, and it has to be something wrote there, this is
Updated.
Well, yeah,
well, not
Regularly.
updated, but always the potential for change.
Yeah.
this is a fluid document.
Because this year it's in a 5-year plan,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that 5-year plan.
As of this date,
In
this is
5 years.
the
it's the
intent.
same.
Let's keep, just back up a minute when John was here last week. You guys gotta remember, try to just one person at a time talk, because when it goes into this, there's two people talking at the same time. Just let one finish and then go to the next, because he said that's one of our huge problems. So I've just sitting looking, and let's try to help the whole system out and help everybody else out.
Michael, for the Six County Road meeting, would you add to the agenda? Because a question came up from the public and we probably need some feedback from the other counties on, some are posting where their snow removal is online on their website. And that's been Ben said that's been a topic of discussion in the past. And there's some pros and cons, and we probably need some more input. So maybe if you would ask that to go on the agenda for the Six County meeting, we can all have a better understanding, because we'll all be there. And we'll get the input from the other counties, because I don't want to ask you to give us the opinion, because
Yeah.
that ain't gonna work.
I,
Not because of any fault of yours.
I will look into that and I'll kind of review the meeting to kind of see what the context is, and get back with you individually.
Just put it on the agenda see if you can just have it put on the agenda for Six County. And we'll have some answers for the public that way.
He's talking about the live data, like a person can see where the snowplow is driving on a map on the website is what. And there are counties that do that, and I know that was brought up when we first incorporated the GPS tracking on our vehicles, and at that time, the board decided not to pursue putting it on the website, but they're wondering what the pros and cons are to decide to do that.
Okay, Casey was just asking about some agenda items, so I put that one in there.
Does that also show where plow has been then?
I think so. I mean, I think you have a lot of,
Or is it just a moving bubble going around?
I think you can design it how you want. So I know some counties do it, some don't, and talk about what might be the benefits or consequences of doing that.
Anyone have anything else, Michael?
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Next item on the agenda, Andy Vandermountain County Attorney, discuss process timeline terms and restrictions for potential land sale and Freeport to possibly set up public hearings.
Big question first. You referred to this as a low maintenance road, right? Is that how they're
No winter maintenance.
winter maintenance? Thank you.
Yeah, no winter maintenance. So, and that doesn't get plowed.
Probably what, 8, 9, 10 of them in the county? I can't. There's something like that. I mean,
There's not a lot.
no. Most of them are down kind of the south and the west. I think a lot of them down in there. There's a few down.
And some of them don't blow in or snow in as bad as others, but the one just north of Washington is terrible.
There's one little one, I think, over at the end of town line that cuts back over the Conway.
Objected.
And the GPS always sends people.
Mm.
There's a semi the other day had to get pulled out of there.
The list of roads was approved as part of the road maintenance ordinance that the board did earlier this fall. So there's an actual ordinance that was read and passed.
You want to send me a copy of that?
If nothing else, maybe we could increase the signage, enter at your own risk.
Fine, here.
Yeah,
Just say enter at your own risk, though.
Well, the bad part about it is you get going, it's not bad. By the time you realize it's bad, you're
Too late,
stuck.
and there's no way to turn around.
Roadside, you probably only do it once.
yeah.
Most people, yeah.
I just like that semi.
I find myself out there quite frequently, and I don't enjoy it.
Yeah, but that semi, was that last spring or spring before? Went there north or south on 245th on, I call it Lover's Lane there, going over to the Conover Road. And I mean, that's, yeah, you got a load of cattle on. Or was there two of them? Yeah. GPS, must have been cut over to the town or Conover Road, and GPS took him that way. Well, there's,
Well, it's-
on a good day.
You may need to
Even
have
in-
a sign that requires chains.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, no, I wouldn't even with a car. You ain't gonna get there. No.
I'll take a look. Thanks.
So where are we at on this Freeport land sale?
You tell me how you want it drawn up, if you want it drawn up. I did have a phone call from state archaeologist on Thursday or Friday last week. And discussed with her the fact that if it is sold, we would put notice on that the potential buyer would have those obligations. And that was all they were asking us to do.
We can't hear.
I can't hear a
Nobody
word.
can hear.
The state archaeologist wanted us to include in the notice, it will be an obligation for any potential buyer to follow the rules of the state archaeologist. So that we can put in without.
I have a quick question for us as a group. You know, we held a public hearing on the land sale last week. And we had a room full of Freeport residents, not just Baker community residents, but Freeport themselves. And 376 signatures on 2 public petitions combined. A lot of the people in Freeport are on those petitions too. Is the point of holding a public hearing to help guide us in the decisions we make for the greater community's safety? And if so, based on the hearing we held on this, shouldn't we decide not to sell the flood mitigation land that we've put in? Like just drop this whole thing right now and leave it alone. I can make a motion if that helps us
I
decide.
guess I personally don't have an issue with it. The way we have it situated. Continue and go ahead with that, so.
Put raised structure only.
That's already in our ordinance.
No,
No, it isn't. No.
That is not.
Well, the flood
In
ordinance,
the flood ordinance it is.
but all of the property isn't in the floodplain.
No, there's about
Just put a
40% of it
raised-
is.
So
I would go with that stipulation.
Yeah.
If you wanted to add that.
Add that
I think that the
restriction.
entire, the
restriction,
entire
yeah.
property,
Becomes a minimum floor elevation.
and that if we're going to do it, that they can't hard surface any of the area, I guess, you know, it just has to be left as a raised surface structure without roads and.
Only if, what about the issue of the inundation of the sewer system by floodwaters in the backwater that comes in off the upper Iowa? That is another major concern on any flooding issue that occurs in Freeport. On all other occasions, the backwaters come in, the pumping station for the sewer system was inundated basements that had all of these damages were a part of their damages and so forth for cleanup were all because of backwater of sewer that came in from that also. It wasn't just floodwater. So if we're going to mitigate a problem, it has to mitigate, shouldn't it mitigate all problems?
We
Well,
can,
we can do what we can do. We can control that aspect of it, not hard surface, elevated only. If the intent of the original, the only reason we're doing this is because somebody approached us, would you be willing to sell that land?
That's true.
If it's public land, I think it needs to go for public bid. But if it needs to be clear to everybody then that if two parties are looking at it, somebody else might not want it for a raised solar thing.
We just said we were gonna make it
No,
stipulation in it
but I
on
also,
raised
yeah, but I also think the intent is to leave it as grass so it absorbs as much water.
to
as
the
possible.
best of their ability.
Yeah, but not putting a storage area or parking lot or something else in. So,
We
but
can't put a storage area in if it's gotta be a raised
We'd have to
elevation.
rezone that because we can't put a building, if you don't have parking, we got requirements for parking. A hard surface on 4 acres, they're not gonna have a hard surface on all 4 acres. We got a whole drainage area of the upper Iowa watershed that's got hard surface in it. It's all draining through there also that's upstream from Freeport. Your driveway contributes to it, Mark.
oh, I know.
Shirley's driveway contributes to it. So how are we
that's
gonna,
right now.
how are we gonna limit that?
Well, we can't necessarily change what's been done, but we can change going forward and to set this precedent on the land that we're selling. It can only be a raised structure
A raised structure.
with grass only, or
You
native
limit
planting.
to grass, I mean.
Native
you
planting.
can't say grass.
No, native plantings.
Just, no. It's limited to,
See, this is why I would like to have us entertain, leave it alone. It's put in prairie grass plantings right now as a flood mitigation measure. This is gonna come up again and again in the future. Unless we say the whole track, I think we should just vote to leave it alone and move forward from there, not add any further damage. There's been damage done already to Freeport over the years. Just leave this alone and keep it in a prairie planting and owned by the county. That's what I would suggest we do. And that's what we heard in the public hearing. I'm not sure why you hold public hearings as the Board of Supervisors. That's the whole point of holding a public hearing. And we had 376 plus the people who,
20,000.
yeah. Yeah, and all the letters. I think it's over 50 emails that we got, and none of the emails were in favor of selling it. None of the people who spoke were in favor of selling it. We have 376 names on that petition and one phone call last morning to you. So why do you hold a public meeting if you just ignore what the people say?
but we're trying to help a business put in a green solar system to help
That has no impact.
whatever, I mean, to help him. So, yeah, I
But will
mean,
we put the restriction on the whole purchase? On the parcel A, B, C, and D,
That was the intent,
yeah, just to be on the whole purchase.
on all of it?
all of it.
Yes.
Raised pedestal construction on all the purchase. With prairie plantings underneath.
If somebody's interested, they're interested. If they're not, they're not. It's all
Are we
we do.
saying on all parcels, prairie planting and raised foundations, but we're not allowing any parking or sidewalks or anything other than a foundation? How
Well,
are we gonna do that?
you get a limited to raised construction with, you're gonna have to have a driveway or something. I mean, you can't not just.
But we're not saying that. We're saying a raised foundation and natural plantings is what has been said. And so if you have a parcel that is not in the flood zone, that you're allowing a raised foundation on, you're not allowing for any of the other facilities required to take for that person that would consider the use of it.
Wouldn't it be just as simple to, on the whole flat area, put the same restrictions as what's allowed in a flood zone? That would make it the whole piece of property with the same restrictions as what's allowed in any flood zone.
So I would understand that to mean that we include that parcel that is not in the flood zone and call that flood zone, and the requirements of the flood zone would apply to the balance of those parcels. Is that
Yeah,
my understanding?
that's exactly.
Does a flood zone allow for parking lot or roads? That's part of the issue, is that they want water absorption, and just basic flood zone probably doesn't restrict enough on that.
I don't know about our zoning, but when we purchased the homes that after the flooding and had them demolished and we put in a parking lot, it had to be a permeable surface. So they put in a gravel parking lot because that was allowed under the flood,
Could put that stipulation in there.
but not a cement parking lot. So that's why that on that corner in Freeport, that parking area is gravel because it was water permeable. That was required by the FEMA when we purchased that property. So I don't know how that applies to our zoning. I'm just saying that's a bit of information that
Do we want to just get informed about what is allowed in the floodplain and go forth from there? Get the information from Tony next week and table this till next week and see where we're at.
That's,
Because
Because if it simplifies the language by just encouraging the whole lot to have the same restrictions as what's allowed in a flood zone, with just,
I
it's
don't-
black and white.
Well, it is and it isn't, because the reality of the flood was way outside our flood zone right now. The water was through this whole area and up into these cul-de-sacs up here. And none of this is in the flood zone. None of that was.
no,
yeah, so what he's saying is we're gonna, even though it isn't in the flood zone, we're gonna pretend it is, and all of the land you're selling restrictions have
Is that
the
what you're
same
saying?
restriction.
That's
as the
right.
flood
for
zone.
all property
Oh.
we're selling.
A, B, C, and D is all designated flood zone by this board, is what Dan is getting.
My concern is, I mean, you look at a road, a gravel road that washes, I mean, obviously, if the rain comes down too fast, it doesn't soak in as easily as if it's just open
And if you
soil
go back to the,
grass.
I mean, we want to look at the science of it again. The former board put this all in prairie plantings to be a sponge to help mitigate flooding into the future because of what they experienced in 2016. Even going in and putting a solar panel field in here compacts the soil that's there right now. This construction compacts that soil. That's the whole argument with the pipeline through Iowa right now. It's compacting soil on those farms, and it's in litigation with some of them. So I still propose that we just drop this whole thing, don't sell it, hold on to it as a county and not sell it, because we're going to be arguing about this unless this is for the life of the deed on that land that we sell. And again, it does compact soil. So we need to think
I'm
about that.
willing to meet you halfway, Shirley. I mean, adding more restrictions onto it. That's where I'm at.
The amount of compaction of a pipeline is significantly different than the amount of compaction from someone coming in there and putting in pedestals and putting in solar panels on the property that was, that IRP asked about. I don't see a comparison to where we're going to lose any amount on that sandy soil anymore.
I don't know.
There's a big difference between heavy construction, excavation, and pipeline building equipment than a local electrical contractor. I think that was Decorah Electric that was presenting that proposal of IRP. Their equipment is nowhere comparable to a pipeline. Yeah.
Compaction.
No different than a farmer that was working in there before that was planted by Corey Meyer. In the years that was a cornfield, you had equipment that would be somewhat comparable to the equipment that would install a solar field in there on that property.
Might have been greater, actually. Greater weight.
If it depends on what they used, you're right, Mark. If it's a big 8-wheel tractor, I can see that.
So I guess we'd look into that.
Put Tony on,
Allowed in a flood.
put Tony on the agenda for next week.
Chairman, I have some new information that might be pretty important. That's that, I just got a phone call from Mr. Psyche, Ted Psyche, who is a foremost, First Nation. I think maybe you know who he is. But he claims that there should be a ground penetrating radar scan of that area and an actual, survey for First Nation, settlement there. That there is a possibility there could be a native or First Nations, actual grouping with a house and other details that went into that. There's quite a few mounds in Freeport. Some have been built over. And yeah, I don't think it's ever been explored as to how extensive that whole affair is. So if you're selling this to somebody that's unbeknownst about having First Nation settlement on their ground, that could really curtail any avenues for them to use that parcel.
I think we were gonna take care of that process with notification of the possibility on for the bidding process. So we're tabling the rest, the decision making till next week.
Yep.
Any other thing for us? Looks like you're good to go, Andy.
No. The C part of the door.
Well, you gotta stick
Here at
around for
11:30.
the next.
Oh,
Full session.
We should do miscellaneous. You have your business done before you go into closed session.
miscellaneous items first. Foremost, accept, file, and publish the 2023 gross wage report.
Yep, I distributed this by email. It's just a required publication for state law. We either publish by calendar year or fiscal year. We've always done by calendar year. It's basically a total of employees' wages like they would have on their W-2s. It includes salary, overtime, any payments that were made.
I'd move to approve, accept, file, publish document.
I second it.
A motion and a second to accept, file, and publish the 2023 gross wage report. Any further discussion? None, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have to set a public hearing on the National Flood Insurance Program ordinance.
Yep, so Tony Phelps gave me this. We've penciled in the 29th of January at 10 o'clock as the public hearing time. If you would approve the resolution to set that, we would have that on the agenda to review that ordinance.
I motion to approve the public hearing for the National Flood Insurance Program ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution for a public hearing on the National Flood Insurance Program ordinance for January 29th at 10 o'clock. Is there any further discussion? None? Shirley?
Aye.
Polly?
Aye.
Vic?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Allison? Okay. And we have a Board of Health appointment.
And so this is the one where I had neglected to send them the names, so they got the names. We reopened the application period. Board of Health received the applications and are making a recommendation to appoint Tim Cronin for the next term, Board of Health.
I'd move to approve Tim as Board of Health.
Second.
A motion and a second to appoint Tim Cronin to the Board of Health. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Just a quick question for you, Andy. If we do change that resolution for that land sale, we have to have another public hearing.
Take a break.
Yeah.
Now.
You want to take a couple minutes so I can
Yeah.
get the computer set up
Yep.
to do the closed session and we can hang up the signs and so on?
Stay warm.
I was gonna stick around, I'm just not telling you.
It's not all
Don't
named
tell the
Sandy.
attorney.
Yeah.
It will be that bad.
Every time. Something comes through, like,
That pH balance water.
Wow.
no,
That's not
no,
Okay,
no,
but we don't have an answer.
no, no, other than they're,
Reading about
they're gonna start over basically. That's why they canceled everything, we have to start the whole process over.
I use that machine, made my cake.
That's that public information board complaint, it's not, it's out of my. realm.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Another expensive machine.
Yeah, yeah.
But guess what? I can tell you stories.
Yeah. I just live and read.
Because it, you know what? So all we drink, my wife, all we drink is.
for anyone left online, in a couple minutes, we're gonna shut off the online session, because we're gonna go into a closed session. Just so you know.
Occupied right now, huh?